we present crossing the human-robot embodiment gap with sim-to-real reinforcement learning using one human demonstration. In this work, we introduce Human2Sim2Robot, a real-to-sim-to-real framework which trains a dexterous manipulation policy from a single human hand RGBD video. For the human demonstration, we record an RGBD video demonstration of the human expert performing a task with their own hands, tracking the object pose trajectory and extracting the pre-manipulation hand pose. Then, in simulation, we transfer the real environment to a digital twin for RL policy training, where the robot is rewarded for following the demonstrated object pose trajectory initialized at the pre-manipulation hand pose. Finally, we deploy the trained policy zero-shot with sim-to-real transfer to a real robot and dexterous hand to execute the demonstrated task. To elaborate on our method, we begin with the human video demonstration, from which we extract two task-specific components. First, an object pose trajectory, an embodiment-agnostic, object-centric task specification that provides a dense reward that is difficult to reward hack. And second, a pre-manipulation hand pose, a prior and guidance for learning human-like approach behaviors by initializing the robot at the retargeted position from which the human approached the object. With these components, we don't need any reward tuning for different tasks or objects. Here is an overview of the end-to-end demo processing pipeline for a sample task. We first extract the object and hand mask from the RGBD video using SAM2. Then we extract the object pose trajectory using foundation pose and hand pose trajectory using hammer. Note that our framework uses just one pre-manipulation hand pose. We then take a scene scan using off-the-shelf LiDAR scanning apps to transfer the real scene to a simulated training environment in IsaacGym. We train the RL policy with PPO and simulation, using the object pose trajectory from the human demo as reward guidance and the pre-manipulation hand pose, as seen in the left image, as an advantageous initialization for learning. In these images, the green picture indicates the current object pose from the demonstrated trajectory, compared to the current object pose represented by the white picture, which we use for reward computation. After training and simulation, we use zero-shot sim-to-real policy transfer to deploy the trained policies on a real-world KUKA arm with an Allegro hand. At inference time, we perform real-time pose estimation using foundation pose. The RL policy takes object pose and robot proprioception as input, and outputs an action consisting of a palm pose and hand position. This action is passed to a geometric fabric controller that generates joint PD targets executed by a low-level PD controller. We demonstrate real-world rollouts of Human2Sim2Robot's RL policies on a KUKA robot arm and Allegro hand. We show that our real-world policies achieve high performance across several grasping, non-prehensile, and multi-step tasks on a snack box, pitcher, and a thin plate. The policy learns a strategy optimal for a robot hand with larger, higher friction fingers than a human hand, successfully crossing the human-robot embodiment gap. Pushing with its knuckles instead of following the human avoids high-friction fingertips from dragging on the table, and clipping the plate between its fingers is more successful than the human strategy due to the Allegro hand's retracted thumb. Thus, the policies can leverage the human demo as a useful guiding strategy for learning, but training policies with RL allows deviations when beneficial. In addition, sim-to-real RL enables policies to better handle out-of-distribution states and recover from near failures. In both of these cases, the robot can adapt to an initial object state not shown in the demonstration and recover from near failures to complete the task. Our policies are also robust to a large variety of visual changes, distractor objects, physical obstacles, and perturbations. This is a benefit of training RL policies with low-dimensional 6D pose rather than images, and introducing random forces during simulation training. Compared to the baselines, our robust, reactive RL policies are generally much more successful. This is for two key reasons. First, hand pose estimation noise due to occlusions resulted in suboptimal policy rollouts, and second, retargeting strategies often struggle when applied to robot hands with large morphological differences, particularly for contact-rich tasks. We conduct several ablation studies to verify our framework's design choices. We compare our dense object trajectory tracking rewards to 3 ablations with sparser rewards. For a multi-step plate pivot lift rack task, sparser reward formulations struggle to learn the task, demonstrating the necessity of dense object trajectory tracking rewards. Next, we study the usefulness of a pre-manipulation pose initialization from the human demonstration by comparing to initialization poses further away or overhead the object. Without a good pre-grasp close to the object, the agent faces exploration challenges and struggles to learn. Thus, a useful pre-manipulation pose prior facilitates learning via RL. Finally, we test the sufficiency of a single pre-manipulation hand pose by comparing to 2 approaches using the full hand pose trajectory. Adding hand tracking rewards converges more slowly and doesn't improve substantially over our method, despite requiring additional data and supervision. The residual policy is substantially worse due to a poor base retargeted trajectory that is challenging to learn an effective residual policy for. Our method effectively learns the task without the full hand pose trajectory. Thank you for watching our video.